When the sun drops below the horizon tonight, your thumb will find a switch, and everything around you will turn to daylight again. You won't think twice. But for almost the entire span of human existence, that move was impossible. Once the sun vanished, the world became an abyss. You couldn't see your own fingers 6 inches from your face. And yet, modern people have rarely lived like this. For more than 300,000 years, every one of your direct ancestors spent half their waking lives swallowed by near-complete darkness. No candles for most of that stretch, just the bare sky, scattered stars, and whatever flames they could protect. So what filled those endless night hours? The answer might rewrite everything you believe about sleep, storytelling, and the human condition. Let's begin with fire, because without it, none of this worked. The oldest clear proof of humans taming fire comes from Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa, roughly 1 million years back. But fire did more than offer warmth. It reshaped the entire human timetable. Before controlled flames, our ancestors acted like any other primate. When the sun set, you found a tree branch or a rock crevice and froze. Moving in darkness meant becoming a meal. Our night vision is terrible compared to the big cats and wolves that hunted us. They saw perfectly in the black. Fire flipped that equation in an instant. A campfire creates a safe zone of roughly 30 feet. Inside that ring, predators hesitate. Outside that ring, you're exposed. Anthropologists who study modern hunter-gatherers have documented that people who stray from the fire after dark are far more likely to be killed, even today. But here's the astonishing part. Fire didn't just guard people at night. It gave them something entirely new: extra hours. Before fire, the productive day ended at sunset, maybe 12 hours in summer, as few as 8 in winter. Suddenly, fire added 2 to 4 usable hours to every single day. Across thousands of generations, those extra hours changed our species. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner published a study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. She spent years recording conversations among the Jew/Hwanzi Bushmen of the Kalahari, one of the last groups living close to the original human way. What she found was striking. During daylight, roughly 80% of talk was practical: where to hunt, which plants are ready, logistics, negotiations. Daytime talk was work. But at night, around the fire, everything shifted. At night, 81% of conversation was stories, tales of distant places, adventures, origin myths, jokes that made the whole camp roar. Wiesner argued that fire-lit talk is where human culture was born. The campfire became the first theater, first school, first place of reverence. It's where we learn to imagine what doesn't yet exist. But the night wasn't only about stories. Something else was unfolding, something science only rediscovered in the last 30 years. You are not designed to sleep the way you sleep now. In 2001, historian Roger Ikirch published a paper that changed sleep science. He had dug through 16 years of historical records, prayer books from the 1400s, court files, diaries, medical texts, letters from ordinary people, even passages in Homer's Odyssey. All of them mentioned the same pattern: first sleep and second sleep. Before the industrial age, people didn't sleep in one long block. They went to bed shortly after sunset, slept about 4 hours, then woke up. They stayed awake for 1 or 2 hours in the middle of the night. Then they went back to sleep for another 4 hours until dawn. That wasn't insomnia. That was normal. And what did people do during that middle-of-the-night wakefulness? Everything. A 16th century French physician recommended conceiving children during that window because couples did it better. People visited neighbors, wrote in journals, interpreted fresh dreams, or just lay in bed thinking. A 1500s medical manual advised patients that the best time to study was during the watch, those quiet hours between sleeps when the mind stayed calm and the world stood still. Historians had found these references for centuries but kept mistranslating first sleep as something else. because they couldn't imagine people ever sleeping differently than we do. The assumption ran so deep that translators literally rewrote ancient Greek and medieval Latin to match modern experience. Then science confirmed what history had been saying all along. In 1992, psychiatrist Thomas Ware at the National Institute of Mental Health ran an experiment. He took volunteers and removed all artificial light from their lives. For 1 month, they experienced 14 hours of darkness every night, just like ancestors before fire extended the evening. Within weeks, every single participant settled into the exact same pattern: 4 hours of sleep, 1 to 3 hours of quiet wakefulness, then 4 more hours of sleep. No one told them to do this. No one suggested it. Their bodies just did it, as if some ancient program had been waiting inside them all along, buried under centuries of artificial light. Ware measured their hormone levels during that wakeful period and found something remarkable. The participants entered a state unlike any normal waking state. Their brains produced elevated prolactin, the same hormone released during deep meditation and after orgasm. They described feeling peaceful, reflective, almost meditative. It wasn't a sleep gap. It was its own consciousness. That state is now unknown to most modern people. So what killed it? The answer is simpler than you think: light. In the 1600s, cities began installing street lamps. Paris led the way under Louis XIV, hoping to cut crime. London followed. The night, once a realm of danger and fear, slowly became navigable. Then came cheaper candles, then gas lamps in the 1800s. Then in 1879, Thomas Edison commercialized the electric light bulb. Within a single generation, the night as humans had known it for 300,000 years vanished. Here's something rarely mentioned. The word curfew comes from the French couvre-feu, literally cover fire. In medieval towns, a bell rang at night, ordering everyone to smother or extinguish their fires. Not because of safety, but because night was meant to be dark. Night was for sleep. Night was when you were vulnerable. For most of history, being out after dark was suspicious. In many medieval European cities, walking outside without a lantern was actually illegal. Night belonged to criminals and the supernatural. People feared it in ways we can barely understand today. And then we conquered it. We flooded it with light, and we called that progress. But here's what we lost. Modern humans are exposed to artificial light 7 to 8 hours after sunset on average. That light, especially the blue light from screens, suppresses your body's melatonin production, the hormone that regulates sleep. Your body can't tell the difference between a bulb and the sun. When light hits your retina at 11 p.m., your brain thinks it's daytime. It delays melatonin. It breaks up your sleep. It disrupts a circadian rhythm that evolved over millions of years. Researchers have found that people who go camping for just 1 week, with zero artificial light, have their melatonin cycles reset by nearly 2 hours. Their bodies begin producing melatonin at sunset instead of hours later. That's all it takes for 300,000 years of programming to reassert itself. We didn't just change when we sleep. We eliminated an entire phase of human consciousness. That quiet, reflective state between first and second sleep, the state Ware's subjects call peaceful and meditative, barely exists anymore. Instead, we have insomnia, and we treat it like a disorder. But what if it's not a disorder at all? What if waking up at 2 a.m. and lying there in the darkness isn't your body breaking down? What if it's your body remembering what it was built to do? For 300,000 years, your ancestors spent their nights in a rhythm that modern science is only now beginning to understand. They gathered around fires and told stories that built civilizations. They slept in 2 phases with a quiet reflection window in between. They lived in darkness so complete that the Milky Way wasn't a national park attraction. It was just the ordinary sky. And every night, when they woke in the dark between first and second sleep, they lay there in silence and thought about their lives, their dreams, and the world they would wake to in the morning. We traded all of that for a light switch, and most of us never even knew it was gone. If this made you see your own nights differently, hit like you're watching Psychology Insights.